Ever feel like life is moving too fast, or maybe not fast enough? Like you're craving both action and peace, clarity and depth? This channel is your sanctuary. Whether you're here to ignite your motivation with relentless inspiration, fortify your mind with stoic wisdom, or surrender to deep, restorative sleep, you belong here. Dive into existential mysteries that bend reality. Master tools to conquer procrastination and build unshakable resilience. Or simply let our sleep aids quiet your restless thoughts. Every video is designed to help you think deeper, live better, and rest fully. If you're ready to transform, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. New journeys await. Let's begin.
Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a familiar cliff. Below you, the same chasm yawns wide, the same one you've sworn 100 times before you would never approach again. Yet here you are. The wind howls the same warning. Your pulse races with the same dread. And just like last time, you tell yourself, this time will be different. But it isn't. You fall. Again. The bruises aren't just on your body, they're on your soul. A quiet voice hisses, "Why? Why do you keep doing this?" You've read the books, recited the mantras, lit the candles. You've dissected your past like a surgeon, traced every scar back to its origin. And yet, here, the same toxic relationship, the same self-sabotaging habit, the same paralyzing fear wearing a different mask. What if the answer isn't in your conscious mind at all? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist who mapped the shadows of the human psyche, called this eerie repetition the compulsion to repeat, a sinister loop where the unconscious drags you back to the same emotional crime scene, forcing you to relive the trauma, the loss, the humiliation. Not because you want to suffer, but because some buried part of you is desperate to finally understand it, to conquer it, to rewrite the ending. But here's the paradox: the harder you fight the pattern, the tighter its grip becomes. Think of a nightmare where you sprint from a faceless pursuer, only to realize, too late, that you're running in circles. Your breath burns. Your legs buckle. And then you wake, gasping, to a chilling thought: what if waking life is no different? What if your choices are just echoes of scripts written long before you knew how to resist them? Jung's revelation cuts deeper. These repetitions aren't random. They're archetypal. Ancient, psychic blueprints etched into humanity's collective unconscious. The betrayed lover reenacting abandonment. The unappreciated genius recreating rejection. The restless seeker chasing mirages of success that dissolve on contact. Over and over, not because you're broken, but because the psyche demands resolution. It would rather replay the pain than let it fester unseen. But this raises a darker question: what if you're not the author of your life, but merely its haunted protagonist? Consider the addict who swears off drugs, only to find himself months later in the same alley, needle in hand. The entrepreneur who builds a second, third, fourth business, only to watch each one collapse in the exact same way. The romantic who vows to choose better, then falls, again, for a ghost wearing a new face. Is this fate? A curse? Or something far more unsettling, a summons from the depths of your own psyche? Jung's answer will unnerve you. Until you confront what the pattern is trying to show you, it will keep screaming louder. The universe doesn't whisper lessons to those who ignore them. It repeats them. Like a record stuck on a warped groove, it will replay the same dissonant note, louder, sharper, more violently, until you finally yank the needle. But here's the twist: the pattern isn't your enemy. It's your unwitting ally. A sphinx guarding the door to your own transformation. The very thing you've been running from is the exact crucible you need to become who you're meant to be. So let me ask you, what cliff edge do you keep returning to? And what might happen if, this time, you didn't run, but listened? The human mind is a master of deception, but its greatest trick is convincing you that you are the deceiver. Think of the last time you swore, with ironclad conviction, never again. The relapse. The betrayal. The moment your hands, as if possessed, reached for what you knew would destroy you. In that split second, a force deeper than reason took the wheel. Jung called it the shadow, the exiled part of your psyche that operates in the basement of consciousness, pulling levers you refuse to acknowledge. But why? Why would your own mind conspire against you? Sigmund Freud first stumbled upon this phenomenon in shell-shocked World War I veterans who reenacted their traumas in dreams. They didn't want to suffer, yet their unconscious dragged them back to the battlefield night after night. Freud called it repetition compulsion, the mind's perverse instinct to replay unresolved pain, as if trying to rewrite history. Jung took this further. He realized the psyche doesn't just repeat, it ritualizes. Your failures aren't accidents, they're ceremonies. A sacred reenactment of some buried wound your conscious self has fled from. The alcoholic isn't just drinking, he's replaying his father's abandonment. The workaholic isn't just striving, she's digging her own grave to prove she's worthy of love. Here's where it gets uncanny. Jung discovered that these patterns aren't just personal, they're mythic. The same stories play out across cultures and centuries. The orphan's curse, a child abandoned by fate, doomed to seek belonging in those who'll abandon them too. The titan's hubris, the overachiever who builds towers just to watch them burn, proving once more that they're fundamentally not enough. The lover's betrayal, the heart that keeps choosing partners who mirror its earliest wounds, as if trying to finally win the love it was denied. These aren't just metaphors. They're archetypes, psychic blueprints buried in humanity's collective unconscious. When you repeat your mistakes, you're not just fighting your past. You're wrestling with the ghosts of every human who's ever walked this path before you. Friedrich Nietzsche glimpsed this truth when he wrote, "If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." The abyss isn't just trauma, it's the meaning you've assigned to it. A child who believes I'm unlovable will spend a lifetime constructing realities that prove it. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, saw this in Auschwitz. Those who assigned meaning to their suffering, this is a test, survived. Those who saw only chaos, this is pointless, withered. Your repetitions aren't just habits, they're questions your soul is screaming. Am I worthy? Can I be loved? Will I ever be enough? Until you answer them, the cycle continues. Arthur Schopenhauer saw the human will as a blind, insatiable force, a shark that must keep moving or die. Your will wants these patterns, not because they serve you, but because they confirm its existence. The depressive clings to sadness because it gives their will something to do. The anxious mind manufactures catastrophes because a problem to solve is better than the void of uncertainty. This is the horrifying truth. Your psyche would rather suffer in known patterns than face the terror of the unknown. Change requires annihilation, the death of who you've been. No wonder you resist. Jean-Paul Sartre called this bad faith, the lie we tell ourselves to avoid freedom. I had no choice, says the cheater. This is just who I am, sighs the chronic procrastinator. But these aren't explanations. They're surrender. Every repetition is a vote for fate over free will. Aldous Huxley saw modernity's twist. Our addictions are now socially sanctioned. Obsession with productivity. Addiction to distraction. Romance with victimhood. The patterns aren't just in your mind, they're in the water supply. Jung's most radical idea? The very thing you're running from holds the key to your liberation. The depressive sadness is a call to rest. The addict's hunger is a distorted cry for transcendence. Your worst behaviors are homing signals, pointing toward the unmet need you've refused to face. So ask yourself now, what ancient story am I reenacting? What buried question is my pain trying to answer? What if my worst habit isn't a mistake, but a message? The answers won't be in your thoughts. They're in the silence beneath them. You can feel it in the quiet moments, that creeping sense of déjà vu as you find yourself back in the same emotional place again. The job you swore you'd quit. The apology you promised you wouldn't make. The boundary you were certain you'd enforce. Yet here you are, watching your own hands betray you, as if pulled by invisible strings. This isn't just happening to you. It's happening through you. Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. That tightness in your chest when you're about to repeat the mistake? That's your nervous system recognizing the pattern before you do. The way your voice shakes when you say this time is different? That's generations of conditioning speaking through you. These aren't just personal failures, they're biological imperatives, neural pathways so well-worn they become canyons. Consider the physical toll. The cortisol spikes from reliving the same stress. The inflammation from perpetual emotional whiplash. Your cells are literally aging faster under this repetition. Your immune system weakens each time you replay the trauma. The body keeps score, and it's running out of ways to warn you. Now look at your relationships. That friend who always drains you. The partner who keeps you small. You think you're choosing them, but really, you're choosing the familiar. Comfort has become your jailer. Every time you recreate the dynamic you grew up with, you're not healing, you're digging the wound deeper. The people around you become mirrors, reflecting back the story you're trapped in. Society depends on your amnesia. Consumerism thrives on your unresolved patterns. That's why you'll buy the same self-help book in different covers. Why you'll join another program promising transformation while secretly believing you'll fail. The system is designed to profit from your cycles while keeping you just hopeful enough to keep spinning. Your repetitions have created an entire ecosystem. The friends who expect you to cancel plans. The family that counts on your compliance. The colleagues who know you'll take on their work. These aren't just habits, they're identities now. And the terrifying truth? The world around you has reorganized itself to keep you in character. But the greatest casualty is your future self. With each repetition, you're narrowing what's possible. Your brain prunes the neural branches of potential choices, leaving only the well-trodden paths. What begins as a behavior becomes a personality trait, then an immutable truth. I'm just someone who, and like that, your destiny contracts. The clock is ticking in ways you can't perceive. Every relapse isn't just a setback, it's rewriting your brain's architecture. The window for change isn't forever. One day, the pattern will have hardened into something no amount of insight can dissolve. That day hasn't come yet. But can you feel it approaching? There's a reason this feels like a nightmare where you're screaming but no sound comes out. You are both the prisoner and the jailer. The addict and the drug. The question and the answer no one wants to hear. What happens when you stop treating this as something to fix and start seeing it as something to decode? The truth isn't in the pattern itself, but in why you needed it to survive. That's where we're going next, into the eye of the storm. You've spent years trying to outrun this. Positive affirmations. New habits. Therapy breakthroughs that felt like revelation until the old ghosts returned. None of it worked because you were fighting the wrong battle. The pattern isn't your enemy. It's a distorted attempt at healing. And tonight, we dismantle it. First, the lie you must stop believing, willpower is enough. It isn't. Your conscious mind is outmatched by forces older than reason. Jung knew this. That's why he didn't preach control, he demanded dialogue. The parts of you driving these cycles? They're not defects. They're exiles. And they will keep sabotaging you until you turn toward them, not away. Here's how the rebellion begins. Stop analyzing your patterns. Start interviewing them. Next time you're pulled toward that familiar mistake, pause. Ask, what are you trying to give me that I refuse to receive? The answer will horrify you. That toxic relationship? It's giving you permission to feel wanted. The procrastination? It's protecting you from the terror of being seen as imperfect. These aren't mistakes, they're malformed prayers. Your suffering has a pedigree. Trace it. When you feel the pull of repetition, ask, who in my family tree lived this before me? The grandmother who stayed too long. The uncle who drank his potential. You're not just healing yourself, you're breaking a bloodline curse. Your worst behavior is a corrupted instinct. The workaholic isn't addicted to productivity, they're starving for transcendence. The people pleaser doesn't crave approval, they're desperate for the unconditional love they never received. Find the pure need beneath the toxic strategy. Then fulfill it consciously. Patterns live in the body. Burn them out. Write the cycle's origin story in blood red ink, then bury it at a crossroads. Scream the truth you've denied into a thunderstorm. Dance the exact opposite of how your trauma moves. Magic isn't metaphor here, you're rewiring your nervous system. Now turn the poison into medicine. That hypervigilance from childhood trauma? It becomes your supernatural intuition. The rage from abandonment? It fuels unshakable boundaries. The pattern was never the problem, it was your refusal to wield its power. This isn't recovery. It's resurrection. You don't fix the shadow, you marry it. The parts of you that terrified you become your greatest weapons. But one final truth remains, the key that makes all this possible. And it's not what any guru ever told you. You've been asking the wrong question this entire time. Not how do I stop repeating this, but who is the I that's repeating it? Here's the revelation that changes everything. These cycles aren't happening to you, they're happening through you. You're not a prisoner of your patterns. You're the latest actor performing an ancient play, mistaking your lines for your life. Jung's most terrifying and liberating insight was this: what you call yourself is largely an assemblage, a collage of inherited traumas, borrowed beliefs, and archetypal energies masquerading as personality. The voice that says, "I keep making the same mistake," that's not your true voice. That's the pattern speaking through you, wearing your face like a mask. The ultimate trap isn't the repetition, it's believing you're the one choosing it. There's brutal humor in how we cling to our suffering. The breakup that devastates you at 25 and 35 isn't proof you're broken, it's proof you still define love through the same unconscious filter. The career setbacks that feel like history repeating? They're not coincidences. They're revelations, showing you where you've outsourced your worth. Your pain isn't random. It's mathematical. A precise algorithm of unmet needs meeting cultural conditioning. And until you change the variables, the equation keeps solving for the same answer. Here's the secret no one tells you: you can't break a pattern, you can only outgrow it. The alcoholic who white-knuckles sobriety still dreams of drinking. The people pleaser who forces boundaries still vibrates with resentment. This isn't healing, it's warfare. True transformation happens when you finally see the pattern for what it is. A children's game your psyche invented to cope with a world it couldn't understand. And you're not a child anymore. There comes a moment, usually in darkness, often in despair, when the cycle loses its magic. The drama that once felt vital now seems tedious. The payoff no longer pays. This isn't willpower. It's awakening. When Nietzsche wrote "Become who you are," this is what he meant. Stop trying to fix yourself and start remembering yourself. The patterns weren't mistakes. They were initiations. Each relapse wasn't failure, it was the universe whispering, "Not this way. Look deeper." So I leave you with this. What if your greatest struggle wasn't an obstacle to overcome, but a sacred code to decipher? What if every repetition was actually an invitation, a dare to finally meet the parts of yourself you've been running from? And what if, this time, instead of fighting the cycle, you thanked it for its service and let it die? The choice isn't between repeating or breaking free. It's between sleepwalking through your life or finally waking up inside it.